Good morning, friends, and welcome. Let's start our class today with the prayer. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God, Guru Preceptors, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Shri Yukteswarji, beloved Gurudev, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji, saints of all religions, we bow at thy feet. We ask thy blessings on our satsang today, that we might feel thy presence of love and joy within and all around us. Om Shanti, Shanti. We'll hear a song and then an excerpt from a talk by Swamiji. Welcome again to everyone.
If you're on the spiritual path, it would be a very important thing to seek the guidance of one who has that kind of wisdom, one who is in tune with God. And if you don't find a master, then find somebody who is enough in tune with God to be able to give you what you don't yet have. That will be a step upwards. But depending on where he is, then you have to follow it with the qualifications born of the fact that he may not always be right. And in that case, but the trouble is, of course, that you are more likely to disagree on those vital points where you are blinded by your own delusions. And so that's a very tricky point right there. Now, a true guru is one who is completely one with God and is able, without any sense of ego or personality, to transmit what the divine will for you is. But even there I've found that there are some differences. For example, Master told me certain things that I had to do. Anandamoyi Ma was certainly an enlightened person, seemed to want me not to do any of that and just spend my time meditating. This is when I was living in India, serving the work there, and she said to me one time, "What would you say if I asked you to come and stay here?" Giving up all my work, it didn't seem possible. If I had followed her particular pattern, I would have gained something, but Master had something else that he was bringing out in me. So you find that there will be perhaps differences even there. And what you need to do is follow your way. You can't be following the advice of everyone who comes along. The guidance of some individual is important, but it's much more than instruction. It's much more than outward guidance. And this is where we in the West have really not understood these essential teachings. You see, it isn't a question of technique and instruction and information. It's not a question of intellectual knowledge. It's basically a question of magnetism. That when you receive enough of this subtle influence from whatever source to be able to have the magnetism of, let us say, an artist.
Welcome again, everyone. I'd like to begin with a brief reading from Autobiography of a Yogi. These are Master's words. I always thrilled at the touch of Sri Yukteswar's holy feet. Yogis teach that a disciple is spiritually magnetized by reverent contact with the Master. A subtle current is generated. The devotee's undesirable habit mechanisms in the brain are often cauterized. The groove of his worldly tendencies beneficially disturbed. Momentarily, at least, he may find the secret veils of Maya lifting and glimpse the reality of bliss. My whole body responded with a liberating glow whenever I knelt in the Indian fashion before my guru. This is a very important and a very subtle topic today, because we all want to draw grace, blessings, help into our lives, but there's a way to do it. Reverent contact is what Swamiji Sri Yukteswarji was saying there. Outward formalities, yes, it's nice, but really inwardly, we have to remember that the contact is really very subtle and it's very inside of ourselves, interiorized. So how do we approach someone who's giving blessings, who's giving a satsang, who's representing our guru? How do we draw from them in the deepest way possible? Touching one's feet is, you certainly receive a blessing if you do it in the right way. And if that person is able to transmit that blessing, I remember Swamiji telling us that when people touched his feet, he felt they were blessing him. And I think that's a wonderful point to remember, that it's a complete circle, that when we do that wonderful gesture, that we should feel we're giving as well, not just receiving. And also, interestingly enough, Swamiji said that even just sitting in Master's presence, they would feel so uplifted that, the different stories from the path. Swamiji was just sitting with Master and he was talking about various things. And he would feel his focus come up to the spiritual eye, or an energy lifting him, lifting his spirits. Masters, the same with Swami Sri Yukteswarji. When he entered the ashram, sitting with his guru, he would feel his worries and problems disappearing. And so also in sitting in the presence, drawing the masters into our meditations, into our everything that we do, we can feel a subtle blessing, sometimes a current, sometimes a vibration of joy, sometimes an upliftment up to the spiritual eye, answers to our problems. Maybe the problems go away, but we feel a subtle blessing that's generated meditating with Master, or I can say, as we meditated with Swamiji, we felt that as well. Very uplifted, very purified. Even if he didn't touch us physically, outwardly, we felt the blessings flowing. And we know from the autobiography as well, that Master said when he went back to meet his guru in 1935 in India, that he felt, even though Swami Sri Yukteswarji wasn't so much outwardly, he didn't outwardly show love. As Swamiji said to Master one day, I see so much love in his eyes. And Master said there was no love in those eyes, but there was love inside. And when Master came back to see and greet and meet his guru after those 15 years had passed, Master said that he could feel the love flowing from Swami Sri Yukteswarji. And Swami Sri Yukteswarji, as I said, was very inward, jhanic. He was a jnana yogi, but the love was flowing from him to Master. Dr. Lewis said the same when he met Master for the first time. He felt, without Master, first of all, without him touching him, because Master asked him, will you love me always as I will love you? And Dr. Lewis didn't know what to say, but he said, but you see, I could feel the love flowing. This was a blessing. Master had not touched him yet, but the love was flowing from Master into Dr. Lewis. And then he blessed him. And then Swamiji said, Kriyanandaji said that when he went to Master, and Master blessed him when he first came, he accepted him as a disciple. He made him a monk and accepted him into the monastery. And Master blessed Swamiji in his heart. He put his finger on his heart, the heart chakra. And Swamiji said for at least 2 minutes, Master was blessing him. The interesting thing is that afterwards, Swamiji said, you hear all these wonderful stories of people going to their gurus, and the first blessing, they feel overwhelmed and so much joy and whatever. And Swamiji said, honestly, I didn't feel anything. 2 minutes, Master blessing him. And he said, you must have thought something was happening, but I didn't feel anything. But then he said, but from that day onward, I was completely changed. My whole life changed. So even if you don't feel anything, just know that those blessings are flowing. And many of you met Swami Kriyanandaji and were with him at his satsangs at our ashram in Gurgaon, or at other satsangs and around India, or lectures. But at that house, at the ashram, we would sit there. There would be lots of people down in the basement, be 10 by 8. This was the early days of Ananda in India. It didn't matter what the topic was. Swamiji didn't bless people physically, if you can recall that, but he would chant, we'd meditate for some time, I think there were many blessings flowing then, and then he would speak for, 45 minutes, maybe a little longer. There was no outward physical blessing, but who didn't feel blessed when they left there? Now, the point is, there's a way to draw those blessings into one, even if one isn't being physically blessed. And the first thing, I have three suggestions. One is listen to what's happening subtly in the lecture, in the satsang, at that time. If you're talking with someone one-on-one, an acharya one-on-one, listen deeply in yourself and pray to Master to give you what he wants to give you through that person. Jyotishan Devi ji will be visiting India, as you know, here in a few, next week they're coming. Actually, they'll be here for a few months. But at the lectures, the times we have with them, listen and ask Master to answer your questions, to give you the spiritual strength that you need, to bless you, to uplift you. And you will feel, without any outward touch, you will very much feel, if you're open enough, if you listen deeply, if your heart is open, you will feel that Master has blessed you through whoever that person is who's giving you the talk, the satsang, whatever. I remember a man who came to Swamiji near the end of Swamiji's life and his last years here in India. And this was just the sort of man, that person that Master talked about when he said that fellow visited him who had all the questions he was asking, and Master kept saying, love God, as the answer to each question, love God. And then finally, Master, the third question said, love God. Master walked out of the room. And we had just that, it could have been that person who came to visit Swamiji. He had his questions listed down on a paper, and he asked one, and Swamiji gave him a very good answer. I don't think the man heard him or understood him. He just went straight to the next question, and then Swamiji gave him, then he went straight to the next question. That went on for, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7, maybe even 8 questions. And then the man left in kind of a strange way, like he thought Swamiji didn't know what he was talking about, just like that man with Master. And you realize that he wasn't listening, and he didn't hear what Swamiji was saying. He didn't get a blessing. Maybe something happened, but he surely could have gotten a lot more than he got from just one by one asking those questions and not subtly listening to the answers. Secondly, to be open and receptive. That takes time. I have to say that if you're newer on the path, as your sadhana increases, you deepen your attunement, you deepen your meditation, then you become more and more open. Now, there's a story of Swamiji who he asked Master, he said, help me to love you as you love me, as much as you love me. And Master said these words. He said, how can the little cup hold the ocean of God's love? And Swamiji understood that he had to increase his receptivity. And everyone thinks, oh, I'm open, I'm receptive, oh, I know what to do. It's not so. If we can open ourselves little by little and receive what's coming, in that openness, then more will come later. And sometimes you'll find that answers, blessings, grace comes later. And you can't understand everything right away. And you can't feel everything right away. Like Swamiji said, his whole life was changed, but he didn't feel anything when Master was blessing him. And so openness and receptivity, and let's add another word, magnetism. Your own magnetism will draw to you what you are in yourself. And so as you go for blessings, in yourself, feel that you're open and receptive and you're magnetically drawing the blessings into yourself. And finally, and then we'll go to some questions. This is a difficult one, but don't overdo it. I've seen this here, and not out of disrespect, but I think just do what's appropriate. And I was remembering someone who came, and this was in Gurgaon some years back when some of the directors were visiting, and it was Jyotish and Deviji and in Gurgaon. And then there was a long, long line of people who were coming up to greet them, take their blessing, say a few words, whatever. There were at least 150 people in that line. And I recall that a couple of people came up and they had their moment with Jyotish and Deviji. And then they went back and they got back in the line. And they cut the line up near the front. And I had to go and say, listen, look at the line. There's so many people here. Let everybody have a chance. Oh, no, one more question. I just have one more question. And I said, no, it's not appropriate. Allow them to greet everyone. And I know that's not easy to hear all the time, but Swamiji said this, that when he visited Anandamoy Ma, that there was someone else there who just kept giving gifts. Here's a pen. They were giving them to Ma. Here's a pencil. Okay, here's this. And, they just had like 10 gifts. They kept giving, and they weren't receiving anything because they were so nervous and agitated and worried. And it's not the way to approach someone who's there representing Master, who's there bringing Master's grace and blessing. So be in your center and just go. It's hard to describe this one, but I think you understand. Just allow the blessings to flow in a natural way. And I remember with Swamiji, we would be with him in many situations when he didn't outwardly bless us. We'd be going out for dinner. He wouldn't say, let me bless you before, let me bless you after. No, we'd be going out on a boat ride, or we would be going shopping, or watching a movie. It wasn't a time when he was outwardly giving us anything, but he was giving us a lot. Every time in his presence, I can say every time, no matter what, I felt uplifted and I felt blessed. But it wasn't that he says, okay, let me do this for you. Let me give you this. Let me give you that. Here's a shawl. Here's this. It just never was. If he blessed us outwardly, I consider that a bonus. But of course, in Kriya and in satsangs, he would bless everyone. But he wanted us to be natural. He wanted us to feel inside ourselves, never feeling lack, that I didn't get enough. And I think that's a wonderful thing to keep in mind when we go up for blessings. Receive it naturally, receive it in your heart, give yourself to the person who's giving the blessings. And that way you will receive a lot more. God bless you. I'll ask Nitendra to come on the screen now.
I just share the list of questions. The first question, Dhanaji, is, in India, we are used to touching the feet of our elders. But with a spiritual teacher, we also do the same thing. Can you say more about this from the spiritual path point of view?
Yeah, I think I answered that already with the quote that I read. But also, the way I see it and what I understood from Swamiji, and this must be from Master, is that it's a two-way street. Does it make sense? As if you go with more of a giving spirit of touching your elder's feet or your teacher's feet, or I mean, you'll get more. And not even that you're doing it that way because you want to get more, but that it's so loving that way. And if you go with, oh, he touched their feet, so I have to touch their feet too, because I want to show that I'm also gracious. That's not right. Or if you do it by rote, I touch my parents' feet every day, so I just keep touching them, and there's no love. You see what I'm saying? I remember Swamiji, he always felt vibrations, he couldn't get away with anything. I remember someone made him this very nice dessert. I remember he opened the fridge, he tasted it, and he said, "Who's made this?" "It's made by a saint." You see, other things he would say, "Who's made this?" But I think as we do things with love and devotion, of course, your heart's open, you're uplifted, you're wanting to give rather than give me, give me, give me. That's the attitude that's not right. And, oh, I didn't get enough. Let me get more. Just be comfortable in yourself. Who's giving anyway? It's Master through that instrument, and he can give you without that instrument if that person's not there in your meditations, as you're going through your day. I think the assurance that my guru is taking care of my life and blessing me every minute of my life, that's enough. And everything else I would consider a big bonus. But the fact that Master has got you as his disciple, it's his duty and his love to take you by the hand and help you all the way through your life. That's a blessing.
Absolutely.
So we don't want to come back and say, now give me more. I didn't get enough. You've got everything. Now put your part into it. That's the point.
Thank you, Dhanaji. The next question, Dhanaji, is how can I receive when I'm not in the physical presence of a teacher or acharya, like right now in Zoom?
I'm certainly getting a lot from being on Zoom. I don't know if you are. I can feel a lot right now of the Master's blessings. And so if you here again, you come to the satsang online, if you can't be in person, surely in person, there's much more magnetism, there's energy, there's vibrational exchange. But if you can't do that, that's what we're basically saying. We've got people from all over India, watching. And if you can't be all in one place, do the best you can and pray that Master bless you. We've done the Kriyas online. Now we're in discipleship even. Now, you definitely get a feeling for Master's presence, even that way. He can come to you in any form, anywhere, anyhow. There's no time or space with the Masters. And so do your best. If you can't be there, just pray that Master bless you on your computer, whatever it is, just on your phone. Just pray that the blessings come. And I can just say, I've never felt that Master didn't come. Problems I felt were in myself, never that it was Master.
The final question is again about Master. So if he's not in his physical body, then how can I best receive from him?
Yeah. Yeah, isn't that the point for our whole life? Because we didn't meet Master. But I sure felt I met him through Swamiji. I felt I met him through his writings, Autobiography of a Yogi. I felt I met him through his pictures, through meditation. I felt I met Master. I mean, these are subtle things. You feel his presence in your life in disastrous situations. You go through enough of those, you don't have any doubts anymore. I felt him in, painful times when he took the pain away. I mean, just live long enough and be on the path long enough, and you feel like, wow, it doesn't have a lot to do with the physical body. It has a much more to do with the forms of the gurus coming through the ether and blessing you and helping you. And I feel him now. You have to feel him, And here again, if you don't, just ask yourself why I don't. Am I meditating? Am I chanting? Am I serving? Am I studying? Am I going to satsangs? Magnetize yourself. And then that magnet will attract the gurus. You attract Babaji, Lady Mashaiji, you attract them. You have to attract them. And if you do what Master said, you can't help but attract them. What he gave was a formula, all the practices and the attitudes and everything. You use the formula. It's like a doctor giving you, this is what you do, and you do it and you get well. So do what Master gave to us, and you certainly will feel his blessings. I honestly, I don't know anybody, maybe there's somebody out there, but anybody who has done what he said, who said, no, I did everything, I feel nothing, I am nothing, nothing ever happened in the 30 years I've been on the path. Now I wasted my whole life and I'm mad. So if you just got started and you want to give yourself a time, give yourself a time. Give yourself a year. Give yourself 2, 3, 5 years, 10 years. If you felt nothing, then maybe you're on the wrong path. I can say from the beginning, I started feeling things. And it's been wonderful all along the way. God bless you all. Have a wonderful day. Bye.